Welcome to this week's Quick Charge. The Old Testament prophet Isaiah wistfully thought out loud, "I wish you would open up your heavens and come down to us." He's really asking for more heaven on earth. Why? Because there are no earthly means able to resolve our earthly matters. This same Isaiah aptly pointed out in Isaiah 59:16, God saw that there was no one to help. Therefore, his own arm brought salvation for him. There was no one on earth because the answer, or the only help, was more heaven on earth. And when there's more heaven on earth, there comes a divine shaking. When the ark of God was stolen by the Philistines, they kept it because they wanted its power and its benefits. And so to honor the ark, they put it with Dagon, their chief god, assuming that they would get on nicely together and that they would coexist. That way they could have both. They could have God's way and their own way at the same time. They didn't expect to have their house shaken, much less their lives. God's presence will always aggressively and indiscriminately consume anything that is adversarial in his sight. In the night, there was a shaking in their house, and Dagon lost his footing, and he was so shaken, the presence of God so shook their God, that he toppled over on his face. More heaven always shakes everything, not just what we think needs to be shaken. In fact, we've been forewarned because in Hebrews 12 it says everything that can be shaken will be shaken, so that which cannot be shaken will remain. God shakes everything that can be shaken. Let's mark it down. Let's count on it. We should expect it. There's no place where the shaking does not come. Why? Because God's best and his finest for us and what Jesus died to give us cannot coexist with whatever we've settled for or embraced in this life. Now, don't forget, when the presence of heaven comes forcefully, what you thought was the problem may not be the problem at all. It might just be a symptom. It might be the fruit and not the root. An open heaven always addresses the root. Remember the man at the gate of the temple who was asking for alms? He thought his poverty and his need was his problem, but that the alms were the answer to his need. But Peter and John didn't have any earthly means for that earthly matter. They only had heaven's answer, which was more heaven on earth to answer the real issue. So they put the name of Jesus to the issue in that man's life because he didn't need alms. He needed to be made whole. And when heaven opened on him, the real problem, that which he had gotten used to, that which he had no longer noticed or even considered, all of that was vanquished. Mere alms would have never enabled him to go walking and leaping and praising God. That was the work of an open heaven. That's heaven on earth. So maybe what we think is our greatest need, our toughest issue, or our biggest problem is not actually the root of it at all. After all, more heaven on earth will always reveal what's really lacking and what's fundamentally true. Do you hunger for more heaven on your earth where you are? Isaiah cried out in chapter 64, verse 5, and he said, "In these ways of ours we continue, and we need to be saved." Yes, We need more heaven on earth and the shaking that it brings, because we need to be saved from that which competes against God's best for us. Join me next week for more heaven on earth. God bless.